So up next, we have speakers that have been with us before, and very excited to hear from them again and hear from this panel. Is Howard, are you with us already?
I'm right here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. Howard Rosen from Nova Insight. I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce your panel and this exciting conversation.
Fantastic. Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to moderate this panel with a great group of panelists and very little time. So as you saw, the topic that we have is looking at the continuum of collaboration in care, which how long do we really need for all that? But we've only been given 15 minutes for really what we should be probably about a week of discussion. So we're going to jump into very quickly. We'll do very brief introductions, and we'll sort of throw this out as a discussion. So I'm Howard Rosen. I've got my background is traditional health IT. I spent 20 years producing film and television, then came upon this idea of creating a communication platform for engaging patients and providers, which led to my invention of something called LifeWire, which I led for 15 years, and now consulting in the whole area of digital transformation, which the core of it is collaboration. With us, we have Lisa White from Christine von Raesfeld, and Dr. Jason Lazar. And maybe what I'll do, because of time, I'll give you each 2 minutes to a brief background, and then we'll just jump into it all. So Lisa, why don't you take it away first?
I won't need 2 minutes. So I'm the director of value-based partner transformation at Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield. We're in New Jersey. We're a single state blue plan. I have been on the payer side for a little bit less than 4 years. And the rest of my career has been in different touch points in the ecosystem, because I'm always interested in connecting all those dots. I am a health tech junkie by love. And so that's one reason I love doing these panels, is we're talking about how we bring in this health tech that we know we have access to and make it meaningful for patients and providers. So thank you, Howard.
Fantastic, Lisa. I think we've already got about 55 questions ready for you already. Christine, why don't you go next?
Sure. I'm hoping I don't cut off. I'm in Silicon Valley, and somehow, for some reason, I have the worst internet connection out of everyone. Hi, I'm Christine von Raesfeld. I've been a patient advocate for quite a while now. I've been in the patient space for almost 45 years now, and really just looking to bring the lessons from what I've learned and what I am learning really to the industry side, and hopefully turn some of the bad experiences into better ones for everyone moving on. And I'm done.
Fantastic, great summary. And last but not least, Dr. Jason Lazar.
Hi, good morning or afternoon, everyone. Jason Lazar. I'm a cardiologist by trade. I work at an academic medical center where I am the Vice Dean of Education and the chair of the Department of Medical Education. I have a fairly robust practice, and I would consider myself both a digital enthusiast, as well as a digital realist.
Well, fantastic. Well, thanks, Jason. We look forward to your insight. So to get things going, just a simple question, and I'll put it to you, Lisa, just put in the same order we had. And obviously the idea of collaboration and care has been around for quite a long time, as we spent a long time yesterday talking about. What is it, because it is a topic of long discussion, what do you see today as being the biggest issue that's just jumping out at you, either as an opportunity or a holy crap challenge? What are you sort of seeing out there?
You're right, that's a huge bucket, but we'll condense. So many times collaboration, particularly with digital and health tech, we miss the collaboration of understanding the provider and the patient voice. What I'm really excited about is trying to get developers to think like game developers. You think about every video game that's ever hit the market that has been a big hit, they have spent untold hours doing user testing, right? User testing, not just focus panels on marketing, but user testing. What does this actually mean? How do we get uptake? And I think we're missing that a lot in the development space from a collaboration perspective. where we could be assessing real life patient journeys. You know, if it's a decision tree, if I choose this, where does it take me? If we do the same thing with providers, we have a much better insight into what their world looks like. Everybody's workflow is different. Everybody's practice is different. So I think I would love to see health tech developers start to think like game developers.
That's a great idea. And it's something that I ran into when I was on the vendor side in technology, when I had the stakeholders actually try the solution early on. And they said, oh, no, we don't do it. It's fine. No problem at all. And I went, yeah, just try it. And they went, oh my gosh, I had no idea that's what they were seeing. Sorry. Anyway, just because that's a trigger. Christine, any thoughts on that or?
Sure. No, I agree with everything that you said, Lisa. And I think one of the things that I'd like to see is people to think more out of the box, you know, and really look at and bring forward the medicine, the technology that we have out there that really isn't being utilized. And I think we're coming on an age where patients are becoming more and more educated, and they're going to have to be able to create their own data without HCPs present in the future. And so we're going to have really build a relationship between patients and physicians for them to in order to create and generate and be able to share the right quality data that we all need.
No, that's great. And Jason, I suspect you may have a thought or two on the being on the provider side and clinician side.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with Christine and Lisa about using a design thinking approach and really starting at the back end and working their way forward. I would, if I had to summarize with one word, I would say integration. In the cardiovascular arena, we deal with just huge amounts of data, whatever it is, you know, Apple, iPhone, Apple Watch type of rhythms, blood pressure data, all kinds of data. And most of these don't digitate, if you will, pun intended, with our electronic medical record. And taking various sources of data, wherever they come from, integrating them into an EMR, a one-stop shopping place for the provider, whoever that is, and the patient to review together, really, I believe, is a main pitfall. One of the prior speakers in this symposium talked about the real-world digital experience, and they mentioned that there's much room for improvement. I would echo that sentiment.
Well, that's great. And so, building on that, so how do you see, obviously, this discussion about that collaboration, you know, just from your perspective in terms of the physician and patient collaboration and being, you know, as the two ends of the spectrum, any sort of thoughts of things that you've worked or see that can help? Because obviously there's a lot of information, to your point, a lot of data to build on that for the patient even to learn about.
Yeah, you know, one particular application is, look, it is widely recommended that patients home monitor their blood pressure. The predictive accuracy is better. There's better patient self-engagement. There's better titration of medications. And yet most patients are left to write the numbers down on paper, bring them in, have them digitally scanned, if you will, and you know, then have them as some ancillary part of the electronic health record, whatever that is. There are multiple vendors, multiple applications, and therein lies, you know, the problem of connectivity. And, you know, while we've come a long way in terms of electronic medical records, and they're not as fast as our IT people say they are, you know, the typical joke with the patient in the office is, my IT people tell me this is fast, but look, it is slow. So our real world experience is disappointing. And again, I would consider myself a realist, but also, you know, an enthusiast. Whatever we want to say, the glass is either half full or half empty. There is a lot of work to be done in terms of taking separate pieces of data and integrating them into one data depot, if you will.
That's correct. Really helpful. And so that leads to this sort of discussion about, so how do we help in terms of, we're going the end, looking at patients to get agency over their data itself? Like, how are the ways to look at, and similarly, the other part is how do you get ways for the opportunity to identify where patients can collaborate? I know Lisa or Christine, which one do you want to hit? I know.
Well, you
Christine
brought
has
up
a
the point.
definite thought about
Yes.
this.
I thought I'd let her jump in as opposed to appoint her.
Well, you know all my thoughts, and most of you, if you don't know me, my thoughts are really around data that is generated by patients. I like to use the analogy of my data is my song. And I think until patients have true agency over their data, we're not going to have a healthcare system that really works. And I think if we look at the way that patients combine together and can share each other's data, regardless of HIPAA violations or HIPAA requirements, if you ask me to find one of my rare diseases or patients around the globe, I can find that. And we need to access that and really give patients that agency to be able to pick and choose where their data is going, who they want to help, and really make them an equal partner and an equal stakeholder. Because if we look at it, all of the data that we are using to properly, run our healthcare system is through patients, and yet we make patients feel like they are a burden on society and all of these other feelings in that 5 stages of grief that we go through. And I go through those every day, but we are a bigger part of the healthcare system. And I think we have to be regarded that way. But in that same sense, we also have to educate patients on how data works and how the system works, and really give them a more of a business mindset when looking at healthcare.
And that's a huge area, is that education piece, and how much to educate and what should be educated on, because you've got this fire hose of data available, but educating them as to really what is the piece that is most important to them today. It may change tomorrow, but today. And I sort of see those as part of it, but part of the value over the collaboration comes in. And I guess that sort of leads to the question for you, Lisa, in terms of how do you identify those areas of collaboration today? Because that's valuable today.
That's the trick. That's the trick right there. Because before we get them to take agency of that data, the first thing we have to do is to get to that education is get engagement. And so that's why I keep coming back to this whole developer mindset is, everybody on this panel and on this symposium knows somebody that literally cannot live without their phone. Their phone is with them all the time. And if we can tap into those centers that create empowerment, that create interest, we have a much better chance of getting to the education piece. Christine and I didn't get a chance to talk about this, but France actually has a card that patients own that is a chip card that has their entire medical history on it. And anywhere they go for treatment, that chip card goes into a reader, and wherever they are, that place has their background right there in front of them. I think that concept of owning your data is so overwhelming for patients because we haven't brought them into the front end of the process, right, Christine? So they got to get engaged from the front end. So I think that's where, when we're looking at collaboration and we bring in those voices from up front, but also figure out how do different people respond to this decision tree that's in the information, so that we can customize, we can tweak, put in cultural, REL data. But collaboration is just really another name for engagement. How do we get their engagement and interest? And once you've got them, let me tell you, the Scrabble game on Facebook has my husband wrapped around its little finger. So we just need to duplicate that.
Well, that's great. And sort of tying to that, and a question I'm seeing pop up in the chat from a few sectors is, okay, what is that balance in terms of collaboration, to the question on data, between privacy of data and well-being? Like, you've got the privacy rules versus what's the patient well-being, and the collaborator and the physician sort of caught in part of that because of some of the rules. And with 3 minutes we have left, and if that's a topic you want to sort of have quick thoughts on, because again, you only need 30 seconds to talk about privacy in patients.
I would just like to say I'm working with a group. I just joined the board for the Light Collective. And if you don't know about them, maybe you should. It's lightcollective.org. I'll put that in the chats. And they're really a group working around patient digital rights and really how we work and build better communities that aren't going to be taking advantage of patients and aren't going to be putting them in worse situations than before they originally started. So that I'll put that in that link in the group, and I'll leave it at that for me.
That's great. Jason, again from the provider's perspective, that whole area of privacy and well-being. I think you can't hear us at the moment, so I'll throw it to you, Lisa.
Yeah, privacy, I think, is one of those desperately misunderstood things. So my running joke is I've been in healthcare since before HIPAA and the internet. So anybody can do the math on that. And I think we've gotten so wrapped around the privacy thing. If we could get patients to feel smarter about their own healthcare, because I think that's where a lot of the disconnect is. You know, when I go somewhere, I'm fully informed. I know what I'm talking about. I know what questions I'm asking. I think we might have a chance of moving past some of those privacy issues, because then we get to the point where patients really are taking that agency over their data.
Right, fantastic. And I think we've got the topics list for if we get this gang together again. I think we're all set with the topics. But thank you so much. I know we're at the top of my time and the clock's ticking and the digital hook is about to pull me away. So Lisa, Christina, and Jason, thank you so very much for your thoughts and insight. And I bring it back to you, Lisa.
Thank you so much, Howard. Thank you for a great discussion. That was a wonderful discussion. So next up, and before I say our next up, I did not announce our book winner, so I just want to make sure that I say the name out loud. Jerry Fisher, for winning our book giveaway from earlier this morning. So someone probably has already reached out to you. Congratulations. We'll have more opportunities coming up.